Thank you for joining us for the 100th episode of Legacy Battle.
Be sure to stick around after the show, and our panelists will share their favorite moments, and we'll look back at all our prior guests.
Make sure you hit like and subscribe and join us for the next 100. Enjoy the show.
This is Legacy Battle. Make sure you hit like or subscribe on whatever you're listening on. And welcome to the 100th episode of Legacy Battle. Brian, did you ever think we'd get this far?
No, I'm surprised we even got past 10.
Yeah, we're heading on year 3 here in a few months. But we got a great show for you tonight. As I said, hit that like and subscribe on YouTube, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon, Apple, whatever you're watching, listening on, hit those buttons. So I'm Michael Adams, creator of Legacy Battle. My panelist tonight from the Gridiron Battle Zone, Brian King, from Ball State athlete Paul Havicott, and we're joined here by a special guest tonight. She starred in movies like The Phantom, Higher Learning, Big Daddy, The Program, which we're going to discuss later on tonight. What If, which is a movie I personally love. My wife and I really enjoyed that film. And of course, she was Buffy and Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the movie. That was a huge hit back in the day. And she's guest starred on TV shows like Knots Landing, Growing Pains, Law and Order, Psych, Sons of Thunder, many, many more. She's been nominated for numerous awards. We got the very talented, she's been a producer, actress, Kristy Swanson here. Kristy, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for the nice introduction. That was so sweet.
We're really happy to have you here. And if you're watching and you're a big fan of Kristy, make sure you check out episode 99. We had her husband, Lloyd Eisler, who is an Olympic medalist from Canada, and we discussed his career and his figure skating career, and as well as how him and Kristy met. So be sure to check that out in our archives. Tonight's debate is going to be the greatest football film in the drama category. And this being our 100th episode, we're going to have a lot of trivia questions tonight for prizes. So if you're a member of the Facebook page, if you haven't, hit like on Facebook page, put in the answer in the comments section of where this show is posted on there, and we'll get a prize mailed out to you if you're the first ones to get it right. So that first trivia question actually involves Kristy tonight, and it's going to be Kristy Swanson.
So I don't get to play the trivia part?
No. Kristy Swanson.
Darn it. Okay.
Started a film 3 times with this Hollywood Wild Thing. Name the star, the 3 films, and the 2 films of his discussed on Legacy Battle episodes with D.B. Sweeney and Megan Cavanaugh. So throw that in the comments section on the Facebook page. We'll get your prize mailed out to you. So we're going to start our debate, and I just want to point out to my father, who's at home watching, who's going to say, I love Brian Piccolo. Brian's song was not a theatrical release. It was a made-for-TV film only, so not available for our list tonight.
Okay, technicality.
Right.
Interesting.
So let's move into our first film. That's actually going to be Rudy.
Okay, I'm handling Rudy. It's a 1993 film by David Anspaugh, he also directed Hoosiers in the 80s, so he's got the knack for feel-good sports movies. There's a $12 million budget for this movie, $22.8 million at the box office, starring Sean Astin, Ned Beatty, Charles Dutton, Lily Taylor, and Robert Prosky. So we got a dyslexic Rudy Rudiger from a blue-collar family. Dad worked 3 jobs, and he was one of 14 kids in a Catholic family in Joliet, Illinois. So we're obviously not doing a lot of birth control or something in the family, but he's got a big family here. It's a dreamer's story. The soundtrack on this movie, you cannot fall asleep during the soundtrack. If you want to get things done, if you want to get motivated, you got to listen to the soundtrack. So he's got it in his head that he's going to play football for Notre Dame, and you see this kid, he's rehearsing the coach's speech in front of his friends and carrying on. And so, anywho, one of the quotes of the movie is 5 feet nothing, 100 nothing, hardly a speck of athletic talent, ability, Rudiger, and so he can't initially get into Notre Dame. So he's doing some studies at Holy Cross, which is across the street, the lesser school, and he eventually gets into Notre Dame after a lot of hard work in '74, and he's still grinding it out, because that's what Rudy does. He's sleeping in a cot in the groundskeeper's room. He's just grinding out practice. He's studying to make grades. Watching it, everybody else feels like they're not doing enough because this kid's constantly hustling. So here we are. Rudy's on the team. He's grinding it out again. And in 1975 against Georgia Tech, he runs through the tunnel. You see number 45 there running through the tunnel. Had soundtracks blaring. There's 60,000 people in the stands yelling. They had to win that game to get into a bowl game, I think, were the stakes on that. So the students find out about this Rudy kid from a newspaper article, and the movie starts showing these players are chanting Rudy, Rudy, and himself. He says to himself, the players are saying, put him in, and coach says, get in there, but Rudy says no because I'm a defensive player, but Notre Dame scores, so Rudy gets in there, and in the huddle, Rudy, this is him saying this, he lines up, and with 5 seconds, the crowd chant Rudy, Rudy, he's there, he goes in and makes a tackle, and boom, they're carrying him off the field. People are crying, there's chills and everything like that. So with the groundskeeper, I think, on a side note, underrated. He should also kind of be viewed as an inspiration. He's the one that kind of kept Rudy going, but one of his quotes are saying, having dreams is what makes life tolerable. So, groundskeeper is an inspiration. Rudy's an inspiration, kind of layered film, a lot of inspiration here. And the movie kind of, I think at the end it says, since 1975, no other Notre Dame player was carried off the field. So that's the movie Rudy. I think that's going to be the winner here.
A lot of young actors in that too went on to big careers. Vince Vaughn, Jon Favreau, of course, does The Mandalorian now. He's just absolutely huge in Hollywood. Kristy, you said you've seen this film. What are your thoughts on it? It's a feel-good film. If you don't walk out of the theater feeling good about yourself, then you probably don't have much of a heartbeat on this one.
I love Rudy. I love Sean Astin. He's a friend of mine. I worked with his dad, John, and I've just known him for many years. And so that movie is just incredibly special. I mean, it's a tearjerker. I remember I was making a movie in South Bend, and the coach of the basketball team at Notre Dame invited me to go on a tour, like a VIP tour through the whole Notre Dame school. And I got to do that. And then I brought my son back there, and he got to see Compton Ice Arena, and he got to go, see where the football is and all their locker rooms and everything, and the plaques and things that they have for Rudy there as well. And so that was really special because my son really likes the movie. So it was really cool. I mean, you can't go wrong with Rudy. It just, it puts a smile on your face, and it's an incredibly emotional film. Absolutely incredible.
Right. Let me ask you real quick on this film, because there's some historical inaccuracies, let's say. The players did not lay their jerseys down on the coach's desk. That's inaccurate. Just the captain went up and said, give him my spot. And Coach Devine, who's kind of made out to be the villain in this movie, he was the one who came up with the idea of having Rudy play. So, I mean, total Hollywooded up. What are your thoughts on those changes as far as football is concerned? Does it change anything about the story, in your opinion?
Well, it didn't affect me watching it because I didn't know those little tidbits. Didn't even think about it at the time. Lots of times I do notice things like that, that are continuity problems or something that doesn't make sense. But I didn't, I don't know that, it's based, when they say based on a true story, it's based on a true story. So you got to kind of take it for what it's worth in that regard. There are some things that you could you take a novel, for instance, and then you make it into a 1.5 hour movie. It's really hard to put absolutely everything into it. There's always going to be some things that are taken out or changed or whatever to help drive the movie and make it so that it's under a certain amount of time. You know what I mean? So there's things like that. Then there's things like where they'll test a movie in the theater and maybe the audience didn't like this or like that. And so then they realize they need to make some changes and they'll like do a little re-edit. So there's also so many factors that go into movie making, you know?
Let's move on to our second film. It's going to be The Program, filmed in 1993. You can see a picture of it behind me here. Budget was between 20 million, so not a lot of money, but I guess back in that time that was more than what it is today, of course. So it made $23 million.
So how many years ago was that now?
30.
Almost 30. Almost 30.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
You don't look any different. You still look amazing. So.
It's so crazy. Okay.
So yeah, it made 23 million. We can't measure it on what it made though. This movie was actually pulled from almost all the movie theaters because of a scene that has now been cut, where the quarterback and some players were laying down in the middle of a highway while cars were going by. And I remember that this was actually pulled from the movie theater where I grew up before I could even get to go see it. And being in 1993, my parents would probably not have taken me to that film anyways, because it was rated R. But so we can't base it off the money. But that scene, it's not even on the DVDs because I wanted to rewatch it and I rented the DVD a couple weeks ago. So directed by David Ward, who also went on to direct Major League, starring the late great James Caan as the coach.
Yeah.
He's an amazing actor. Halle Berry, Omar Epps, Craig Sheffer, Kristy Swanson, Joey Lauren Adams, and Andrew Bernarski, who's done quite a few football films himself. Big man. Just a little synopsis of the film. ESU, it's a fictional college. They're called the Timberwolves. 2 straight non-bowl game seasons, they haven't made it. Coach is under pressure to win or he's going to lose his job. Sheffer, who plays quarterback Joe Kane, is a Heisman Trophy candidate. He can't live up to the pressure and the publicity that's coming with it. So this movie shows us the real struggles of and pressures of being a college athlete, trying to compete, and all that you're going to do to be the best. A lot of ways it's similar to Brian's film that he's going to do next. Brian's is the NFL, mine's college. And I thought Kristy and Halle Berry, their characters did a really fantastic job of dealing with the stresses and lives of their boyfriends in this film, because they're the ones that are not on the field. So they're off the field. They're the ones hearing everything that's going on and having to deal with the emotional output that comes with it. So, but in my overall opinion, this movie was just stolen by Craig Sheffer. I think he went on to be in One Tree Hill later on in life. I might be wrong about that. But so as I said, he was quarterback Joe Kane. He was amazing.
He was in A River Runs Through It before that.
River Runs Through It. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that the realities of this film, the college test cheating, the steroids, the alcohol abuse, treatment of women on campus, oh my goodness, and boosters money, calling the shots on who coaches and giving players money, and just the stresses of being a college student athlete. But they're all nailed in this film perfectly. We get cameos from Lynn Swann, Bo Schembechler, and Chris Berman from the NFL world. So, Kristy, this was your film. Just tell us a little bit about it, filming it, and your thoughts on how it turned out.
Well, it's interesting that you brought up all the corruption, and it's interesting that a movie could get made with exposing that much corruption and it not be a documentary, right? But there's a lot of truth to it, because college ball is also, it's on TV. I mean, it's a big money thing. So I think that they were just bringing to light all of those, situations and issues and problems and all the adversities that kids that age, do face. And I think with Halle Berry's character, she was more on the educational administration side of understanding the pressures. And then my character, Camille, was an athlete as well. So she had that in common with Joe. But she's in a single man sport, being a tennis player, a lot different than, being a team player, but still understanding injury, understanding pressure, understanding anger, understanding, everything that goes along with being an athlete, and you know, you have your desires and your dreams and you want to be the best. But you know, you go through a lot of changes, especially when you know, hit college. And so I really enjoyed making the movie. I thought David S. Ward did an incredible job, because it's almost next to impossible to, and I don't know if you guys feel this way, but I've always felt this way. When you make a movie about a sport in a fictional, like it's a script and you have to have actors playing that sport, or, you know what I mean? And you're doing this, like this particular one, football. It's not easy to make a football movie at all. It is almost next to impossible, because you have to use so many doubles, you have to use so many players, you have to use your actors have to be ready, you know, to be able to look like they play that, they are that athlete, you know. So you've seen a lot of movies where you're just like, no, I don't buy this. There's no way this guy's an athlete, you know, or he's a football player, or she's a figure skater, or he's a whatever. So it's just, I was just really impressed with the production value that they put into the movie. And I think that's why it's so popular. I think that's why a lot of people really liked the movie, and the flow of the storyline and how it kind of showed different stories. I love Dwayne Davis's storyline. You know, I'm blanking on his character's name. He's the one who busted his knee up. His son now plays in the NFL. Willie Davis's grandson. Oh gosh, I'm blanking. Anyway, but I mean, there's just so many great things about making the movie. And also with me, this is the funniest story of all time. This one made me laugh so hard. I was on the set. I was shooting a scene where I was just out on the tennis court hitting the ball back and forth, and we had broken up, and I was just upset and off by myself, just hitting the ball at the tennis court. And we were in between takes, and you know, like I grew up, my mom's from Pittsburgh, and I grew up in the 70s, and so my uncles, my aunts, everybody, they're all Steelers fans, right? So I grew up a Steelers fan. And anyway, so I'm on the set just shooting, and then we're taking a break or whatever, and this really good looking man comes walking up to me, and he goes, "Hey, is your name Swanee?" And I said, "Yeah, my name's Swanee," because that's what everybody calls me by my nickname, right? And so he goes, "Well, that's really weird. I'm here for a wardrobe costuming meeting, and I hear them calling, 'We need Swanee on the set. We need Swanee on the set.'" And I go, "Oh," and I realize it's Lynn Swan is talking to me, and he has the same nickname as me, and he's like, "I never met another Swanee before." And I go, "Oh my God, you're Lynn Swan. Can we take a picture?" It was so funny. Oh my God. It was really, I couldn't believe it. I've never met another Swanee before, so it was funny.
And I don't recall any scenes where you were with James Caan, but did you get to speak with him at all? Just a fantastic actor, you know, God rest his soul, of course.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's so sad that he is not with us anymore, but my God, what an incredible guy. Like, I loved working with Jimmy Caan. He was just so classy and so fun and so cool. You could just sit around, you know, shoot the shit with him and laugh. And he just was, you know, he's just a really cool dude.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Before we move on our final film, here's another trivia question. As we said earlier, put it in that comments section. Steelers great LaVon Kirkland picked this player on Legacy Battle's top 5 Steeler linebackers episode as his pick for the top 5. Throw that in the comments section. We'll get your prize mailed out. Let's move on to our final film. Brian, go ahead.
All right. I got Any Given Sunday. Came out in 1999. It had a $55 million budget, and it did $100 million at the box office. So very successful. Directed by Oliver Stone, the legendary, director producer. It was his only sports movie, so it's sort of a really unique angle, a unique take on the sports world. It had a great cast. You had Al Pacino, Cameron Diaz, Dennis Quaid, Jamie Foxx, James Woods, LL Cool J, and Charleston Heston. And the cast included two all-time NFL greats. You had Jim Brown and Lawrence Taylor. Also cameos by some other big-name stars: Dick Butkus, Y.A. Tittle, Ricky Waters, Terrell Owens, Johnny Unitas, Warren Moon, Pat Toomey, Emmitt Smith, and the Super Bowl winning head coach Barry Switzer. So one thing that jumped out right away about this movie was the camera work and the sound effects. There was no shortage of up-close action shots, which I thought really put you on the field and really gave the viewer a true sense and appreciation for the violent nature of the game. Al Pacino, he's the head coach of the Miami Sharks. Cameron Diaz is the team owner, who took over for her recently deceased father. And Dennis Quaid is the starting quarterback. The Sharks are struggling, and to make matters worse, the starting quarterback gets injured. He's going to be out for the foreseeable future. The backup stinks, and he gets injured. So then the Sharks have to turn to Willie Beeman, played by Jimmy Foxx. Beeman's a really interesting character. He's very humble at the beginning, and then as he finds success, he gains great confidence, and he gives himself the nickname Steamin' Beeman. He starts getting wildly popular and just becomes an overnight sensation. He's doing commercials. He's just the man. He's also interesting because of what he represents. In 1999, when the film came out, black quarterbacks were beginning to make an impact in the NFL, but they were still not respected, at the level that they are today. So Beeman's character reflected that, and there's a racial equality element, in the movie and in the dialogue of the script. But ultimately, what this film is best known for is Al Pacino's inches speech in the locker room before the team's playoff game. In it, he acknowledges that, he's far from perfect. He's a middle-aged man. He can't physically do what he's asking his team to do. But all he can do is ask them to just give all that they have. And here's a little bit from the inches speech. He says, "The inches we need are everywhere around us. They are in every break of the game, every minute, every second. On this team, we fight for that inch. On this team, we tear ourselves and everyone around us to pieces for that inch. Because we know when we add up all those inches, that's going to make the difference between winning and losing, between living and dying." It's a very powerful message there, just about giving everything that you got for the team. And I just think this was just a really great film all the way around.
Hey, Brian, with Dennis Quaid, he was playing the older quarterback. Did you get like a Dan Marino vibe type? Like maybe he was kind of playing Dan Marino at all?
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, it was the Miami Seahawks as well, so it was, you had that going. But yeah, it did kind of seem that way. And Marino was in his final season in '99, if I recall correctly, or maybe 2000. So yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. Kristy, I don't know. Have you ever worked with Oliver Stone at all? His films are really out there.
I've met Oliver Stone, but no, we have not worked together.
Okay. Yeah, his films they always have a little bit of controversy to them. I've noticed through the years.
Oh yeah, I mean he's a brilliant filmmaker. I mean, he's super talented. Really cool.
So Brian mentioned all-star cast, Al Pacino, like on the top right there. Just hearing what he had said, like what would be an expectation maybe for you seeing this film for the first time, hearing that list of actors?
Now that I've heard like the plot, the story, and visually how it was so cool and everything, how he described it all, now I want to see it really badly. So I'm going to ask my son if we could watch it maybe this weekend or something. So
excellent.
Yeah.
So let's move into our vote here, and we have a smaller group of panelists tonight, so you can vote for your own film tonight if you so choose. Paul, you're in my upper corner, so you can start us out. Who you picking?
So you're saying we can vote for our own, huh? That's a
We
new.
actually can. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'd be crazy not to go with Rudy. I mean, it's such an inspiration. Your guys' films are full of violence and and just laying on railroad tracks, bashing out windows because you didn't make the team, stuff like that. And Brian, I was gonna vote for you, but you didn't do the Pacino voice. You got to go inches we need. I mean, you got to do it all in Pacino's voice, and you just.
Oh no!
It doesn't sound right.
Oh man,
It doesn't sound right when you do it normally.
that's true. That's true.
Brian, go ahead.
Well, I was going to vote for Rudy, but now Paul's made me mad. No, I'm just kidding. I got to go with Rudy. Rudy was that was just very inspirational. Even it was like, it wasn't like winning the championship or winning, some big game or whatever. It was just one little routine football play, that everything kind of led up to. And I think that was cool because it's sort of like, it kind of gives hope for like the little guy, the guy that's not all that talented, the guy that's not, like that was the measure of his dream. He knew he was never going to be a Super Bowl MVP, or he was never going to hold a national championship title or Heisman Trophy or nothing like that. But he had his one little moment that he strove for, and I thought that was really cool.
I agree. The underdog and the Cinderella story.
Right.
A shout out to Remember the Titans as well that just missed our list tonight here. But well, for my vote, like Brian, like yours and I's film, I said earlier, like they're almost the same film, just the difference between college and NFL.
Yeah.
And they have such a different tone than what Rudy gives us. Rudy is inspirational, whereas Any Given Sunday and the program are movies that are making like, oh my goodness, is that what really happens type films, So
right.
Total different kind of drama than what we get from Rudy. And Paul, I'm gonna give you the vote tonight for Rudy from me too as well, because I like walking out of the theater feeling good. I don't see anything negative about that movie other than the few changes that were historically inaccurate. It was a very well put together film. Kristy, of the ones we discussed tonight, what was your favorite?
I would say Rudy.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
So 4 votes for Rudy. Paul with a win. Good job. We're going to move into our...
Isn't there another football movie that just came out about... there was another one that came out about a quarterback. Oh, the Rams quarterback.
Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner.
Yeah. Didn't that come out recently?
Yeah, that was
last Christmas that came out. Yeah.
It was American.
That was inspirational.
American Underdog.
Yeah, that
right?
I would love to see that story.
Yeah, that was a good story. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was actually an honorable mention when we did faith-based football films with actress Erin Bethea. So that was one of the honorable mentions there. So check that out in the archives.
That's wonderful.
Well, a win for Paul tonight. We're going to move into our Q&A. I'm going to throw out another trivia question before Paul gets first question, followed by Brian and me. Basketball Hall of Famer Rick Barry picked this team as the greatest dynasty on Legacy Battle's NBA's Greatest Dynasty episode. Check that out in the archives. Put that answer in the comments section. Paul, go ahead.
Well, I was looking at your resume, and I bet nobody really ever asked you about Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and I know you were just getting started when you were on that set, but that turned into such a cult classic. I wondered if you had any good stories that the public may not be aware of from being on that set with that cast and that story that seems like it's still popular this day.
Well, I mean, I was 15 years old when I did that. I had met John Hughes for a role in his movie or whatever, and I guess he had this little part for me, and I got hired to do it. And they had gone on to film, I guess, in Chicago, and I got a phone call from him, and he says, "Hey, I got some good news and I have some bad news." And I said, "Oh, okay." He goes, "Well, I'll tell you the bad news first." He goes, "The bad news is that I had to shoot your scene that I hired you for because of logistics, because we were shooting in Chicago and I really needed to do that particular scene in Chicago and you're in LA. So the good news is I wrote a new scene for you. So we're going to shoot it in LA.
at Paramount Studios. I've got an actor coming in. He's going to play the teacher. And you're going to love it. I'm going to send you over the dialogue. So I received the dialogue and I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to learn this? Oh my God. And so, anyway, I, desperately memorizing this thing. And, this, it's just a lot of words. And we shot it, and I just had I had such a great time working with John Hughes. He was absolutely amazing. And, he made so many great movies, and I loved working with him. And he was funny, like he goes, hey, what are you doing this weekend? And I said, I don't know, nothing. And he goes, well, we're reshooting the end of this movie I wrote called Pretty in Pink, and I'd really like you to be in it. And I was like, okay. And then I ended up in Pretty in Pink as well. So, he was just a chill dude, like really cool. So.
Kristy, I want to talk about, I think it was your next movie was Flowers in the Attic. That was disturbing, but also kind of delightful in a way, because it was like this mystery unfolding, and I couldn't predict what was going to happen as I was watching it, which I like that in a film, because, I don't like you start watching one, you're like, oh, I know what's going to happen now. This was like craziness unfolding here. So I want to ask you about, first off, there's that scene where you get your hair cut short. Did you actually get your hair cut, or was that like a wig or something? Or
that's, you can kind of see in the movie, there's like they cut to like her cutting a wig, actually, and then the next thing you see is like, I was wearing a wig.
Okay, yeah. So then I just want to ask you, like, how were you able to sort of conjure that up, those feelings up of, like, your mother is actually betraying you, like trying to kill you, and then there was that final scene where you just kind of confronted her and everything, and we all know what happens after that. But how were you able to just dig deep and pull those emotions out? That was amazing.
Yeah, that was a dark, depressing film. It's kind of like when you're doing those dark, depressing films, you're like, oh God, I wish it was on a comedy right now. I don't know. You just, gosh. I was surrounded by such great actresses. So, I had to step up my game. I was 16 and I learned a lot on that film. So it was, it was a great experience. I really loved it. I learned a lot.
I'm going to take it to 1994. I was going into high school. My brother, who's a little bit older than me, showed me a film called The Chase, and absolutely loved it. I'm not going to lie, you were one of my crushes in high school there, of course. But tell me a little bit about that film, because I really enjoyed it. And then this Charlie Sheen. I don't know if this was before Charlie Sheen we see today. What were your thoughts on him, and just tell me a little bit about that film.
Well, I already knew Charlie going into that film, because we had a lot of mutual friends. We had also done Hot Shots, the movie Hot Shots together. So we kind of just knew each other through show business kind of thing. And then Adam Rifkin, the director, was a friend, and he's a friend of Charlie as well, and all of the producers. So it was kind of like everybody kind of knew everybody anyway, just from showbiz kind of thing. So it was fine. To be honest with you, I actually had an injury and was walking with a cane at that time. I had like a bursitis in my hip from doing indoor rock climbing. I had overstretched and I could barely walk. So the fact that I could be sitting in a car making a movie was like the greatest thing on the planet. Like it couldn't have been planned any better. So it was good that I could just be sitting in the car and having those scenes with Charlie. And I don't know, we were in Houston. It was hot. It was like July or August. And I felt bad for the camera crew. They were all out on the highway, and Charlie and I were in this nice air-conditioned car, and I mean, we had fun. Like, we laughed a lot. Sometimes we would just like use the car phone. You know, it was the big old car phones back then that were all hooked up to the car. And one time we called his dad, and we were like shooting shit with him, and you know, we had a good time. I had fun. I loved the whole cast. It was great.
One more each, guys. Same order.
I want to see what your reaction is when I mention a show called BL Striker. I was a big fan of Burt Reynolds. I don't know Burt Reynolds, obviously, but why do you think that didn't make it? Was it because each episode was 2 hours long?
I don't know, but when you say BL Striker, I mean, I get a big grin on my face because it just warms my heart. Doing that show was just such a great experience, and working with Burt was just incredible and amazing. And I'm so glad that I got to see him, I don't know, I guess about a year before he had passed away. And he's just a special man, you know, like when he saw something in you and he connected with you as an actor, you know, because when you're acting with someone, you're like, you know, he's acting with me for the first time, but we're total strangers, right? So you have to trust each other. You have to listen to each other and play off of each other. So we had chemistry, and he was so lovely and so sweet. And I loved working with him. I mean, if I could do it all over again, I would. And I don't know why it didn't go any further, but I think there were it was a wheel, right? I don't know.
The concept seemed good. It was like a guy, former veteran. He was living on a boat, drove a Cadillac. I mean, it sounds very, you know, Miami Vice like in some ways, but
yeah, it was a great experience. And Tom Selleck was one of the producers on that too.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Well, Chris, you obviously met your husband on the figure skating celebrity show. Can you tell us a little bit about what that experience was like?
Oh my God. Okay, so I did meet him there. I didn't know. Even when I said I was going to do the show, I don't know. My agent called me, said they're doing a skating show, and I'm like, well, what is it? I mean, I can skate sort of like forwards and backwards, but I can't do any jumps or tricks or do anything. You know, I didn't compete or anything like that. My brother was a figure skater. And so I called my brother up and I said, they're doing this show. I guess it's going to be like Dancing with the Stars, but it's called Skating with Celebrities. I don't know if it's ice dancing. I don't know if it's air skating. I don't know what the hell it is. And he goes, oh, you should do it. You'll win. And I said, what? And he goes, oh yeah, Kristy, think about it. How many actors can like actually skate? And he gives it, and you'll be doing it enough that you'll just pick it up. You'll be fine. I went, okay. And I just kind of like jumped in with my 2 feet, and I got on this, and I did the show, and I was like, okay, here we go. And there it was, pair skating, and Lloyd was my partner. Thank God, because he is like the biggest, strongest, and he made me look good, you know. So it was fun. I loved doing all the stunts because it was pairs, you know. So like the throws and the little jumps and the lifts and stuff like that, I loved doing that. It was the balletic sort of graceful ice skating part that I didn't like so much. And performing in front of a live audience was very uncomfortable for me because I'm not used to it. But I loved it. I like doing all the lifts. That was, you know, to me that was like doing stunts on a movie.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I'm going to have to ask you about Buffy the Vampire Slayer, because if we don't ask you about that, your fans are probably going to go crazy. So is that what you're still most known for today? And, you know, Luke Perry's in the film. And did they also, I was wondering, did they ask you at all to be part of the television show? Like maybe play a character in it at all? And you know, how do you think that movie turned out? It's definitely a cult film at this point.
Oh yeah, I mean the movie was. You could pretty much tell that it was going to there was something special about it when you read it, you know, like the script. So I could see what Luke saw in it and why he liked it. The humor, the comedy, and everything was really good. You know, we didn't do so great in the box office, but it found its legs, and it, you know, became like this rental and this cult classic and all those things. It's a great movie to do. I thank Luke to this day for going to bat for me. I mean, he visualized, he was like, you should be playing Buffy. Like, you have no idea. We were just friends. We had never worked together. And he's like, you're so perfect for this part. Oh my God, you have to go in. So I auditioned like 7 times because they, you know, there could be probably 5 to 10 girls in Hollywood that could play the role of Buffy. There could be 30 of them. I have no idea. But anyway, I had to kind of like, I guess, prove myself. And so I did. And I mean, it was a great experience working with, you know, Donald Sutherland and Rutger Hauer and Luke is just, you know, I miss him so much. We remain friends. I have a lot of friends still from that film. You know, Buffy it's really funny, you know, I'm 53 years old and I'm still getting recognized for Buffy the Vampire Slayer when I was 23 or 22 years old, and so I can't complain. You know, it's flattering, I guess. So.
And had they asked you to be part of the TV show in any way?
Oh yeah, that question. No, they did not. But I was never like offended by that or upset by that, because I always thought it was awesome and amazing that there was this character, Buffy, that was a strong female role to be on TV every week for young girls to see and look up to. I thought that was amazing. And I never thought, you know, I mean, it was 7 years after the movie. So I wasn't like, oh, why didn't they ask me to play Buffy? I mean, I was well into my 30s by the time, you know what I mean? So they didn't bring anyone from the film onto the TV show. It was a whole new Buffyverse, you know, whatever kind of thing. So it didn't bother me at all. I was actually quite proud of it, and I support the show 100%.
Well, our final trivia question tonight. Hockey great John LeClair said the hockey rink he grew up playing on was surrounded by this on Legacy Battle's greatest Stanley Cup winners of the 2000s. Throw that in the comments section. So we want to thank Kristy Swanson for coming on tonight. We really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And
so
be
nice
sure
to meet you all.
Be sure to thank your husband too for us. He really helped us out getting you on here, and I give him my appreciation on that. I'm sure I'm going to message him here when we're done. But
okay.
Awesome. Remind everybody, hit that like and subscribe button on whatever you listen on. We'll see everybody next time. Have a great night.
I think it's one of the most overrated movies of all time. I think, you know,
I'm going down today.
Yeah, it doesn't hold up well at all. You know, I love Gary Cooper. He's one of my favorite actors of all time, but I find this to be a really corny, hackneyed movie. And we all love the story of Lou Gehrig, but the baseball is the worst of any movie we're talking about. I mean, Gary Cooper was such an unathletic guy that they actually had to flip the logo of the Yankees uniform. He batted right-handed and he ran to third base, and then they flipped the negative over.
No way.
And he's still really bad. They have to show him from like the stadium distance for it to even be remotely believable. He has a really bad stunt double. So, I mean, you know, it is a different time and everything, but some of my favorite movies, I mean, Citizen Kane is from that same era, and it holds up great to this day. So, you know, and I know that's not a fair comparison, a baseball movie versus one of the greatest movies ever made, but I do think that this movie skates along on an enormous amount of goodwill, which is not entirely earned.
Well, I know you swung the bat really well in your movie. I've seen it probably 100 times, to be honest. But John Cusack did not swing the bat very well. Even when they were showing the one scene where he's just taking the warm-up swings, horrible swings. So I'm going to throw that out there just for my sake of argument. But
yeah, Charlie Sheen could play. Charlie, they tried to actually build things. Charlie's character is not very important in the story, but he was a big star, so they kept trying to find ways to put him on screen. And so he was a good athlete. And Michael Rooker, who played Chick Gandil, he's a tremendous athlete, but he's not a good baseball player. But he knew how to pretend.
Well, you mentioned Charlie Sheen. I know Charlie, he's been quoted as saying that he actually juiced for Major League to get his fastball up another 10 miles per hour. So he was quite a good baseball player, at least according to him in high school. So
he's pretty good. He's no stranger to foreign substances either. So
touche.
So the first part of your question, when Jerome fumbled, we were in a state of shock. We were so busy, and you being a Steeler fan like you are, you remember we played the Colts early in the season, and it was Monday Night Football. They beat us like 26-3. It was horrible, right? We got embarrassed. We knew we didn't play our best game, so we wanted a chance to see them again. And at that time, they were rolling. So Bill Cowher, and that was in the RCA Dome, right? It wasn't at the Lucas Oil where they currently play the RCA Dome. Bill Cowher in the locker room said, don't worry. In January, we're going to be right back in this same locker room. It's going to be a different outcome. We heard him, and we listened, and we believed it. He was like, yeah, no question. So going back to that game, we had an extraordinary game plan. If you remember that game, how we started off offensively, it was all passes. Play action, taking shots, being aggressive. Not the normal offense that we've showcased. Defensively, sending pressure. They had no answer for us. So going to that last drive offensively, we were too busy talking so much trash to the fans because they helped us so much the first time we went there. We wanted some get back. So we're not even watching the game behind us. We're too busy talking crazy to their fans. They cussing us out. We going back and forth. Go home. Y'all season over. Because remember, that Colts team, they were like 13-3. They were rolling. I mean, the Hall of Famers, you had Peyton, Edgerrin, Marvin, eventually Reggie going to get in there. You had Jeff Saturday. You had Dallas Clark. You had Freeney. You had Mathis. You had Brackets. You had Bob Sanders. I mean, you had some real guys, some go-getters on that team. So we just talking trash, and we just heard the fans went crazy. So when they went crazy, we like, why are they going crazy for us scoring? Because we thought we were going to score. We was on the goal line. We're like, they not stopping JB from not scoring. So we like, man, they going crazy. Why they cheering for our touchdown? So we happen to look back. We see freaking Nick Harper with the ball in his hand. So we go from what? Wait a minute. And then we like, oh, get him, Ben, dog. Get him. Ben gets him down. And now we got to go get our helmet. They're like, defense, you up.
No, so as we're taking off, we're about to take off, and all of a sudden we hear a loud noise, boom, in the back of the plane. So everybody's like, "What's this?" So we see one of the stewardesses laying in the in the hall and the little the hallway there that goes between the seats. She just passed out because she didn't eat. She was, I don't know, tired, didn't get much sleep, whatever, dehydrated. So she fell down. Trainer comes in the back. So I'm like, oh, I got an idea. I think I'm going to be a stewardess tonight. So I went in the back of the plane, and guys didn't know, So Marty's like, yeah, it's like, I got it. Shh, just wait. So I get in the back, and I asked the other, there was two stewardess. So I'm like, she's in the aisle. That's the word I was looking for. So I was like, do you have another apron? It's like, why? I was like, I'll help you out. She's like, no, you go sit. No, please let me help you just a little bit. It'll be good. And she's like, well, there's one. So I was like, oh, thank you. So I grabbed the apron. I get naked in the back. There was a little curtain. So I got butt naked. I just have the apron on. I tied it in the back. So obviously my butt is showing in the back. And the apron's about to my mid knees, mid thighs. So anyways, I grabbed, there's a cookie tray. So I grabbed a cookie tray, and then I had the cookies. So I go and I open the curtain. So I start going the aisle. Hi guys, would you like a cookie tonight? We got chocolate chip, macadamia, and tough to use. Hi, would you like a cookie? So I went all the way up in the aisle almost to the media. I grabbed one of the cookies. I squeezed it between my butt cheeks too to try to make the guys laugh even more. So I had chocolate chip cookie on my butt, everywhere on my ass. Anyways, it's kind of funny. I looked like I had, anyways, poop, but it was just funny, guys. So I guess Torts was in the bathroom. He heard the guys laughing, but he's like, is that Andre again? Was that? And they were like, oh, yeah. So they
It was fun. Didn't know much about John. In the off season of 2002, I had gotten released by Indy. Dungy got fired by Tampa, and we just kind of switched jobs. Gruden, I met him at the downtown Hooters in Indianapolis at the Combine, and I think it was in the paper the next day that we met at Hooters, and I was looking to sign with Tampa Bay. But, John was fun. Great passion for the game. Back then, he was only like 38 or 39 years old, and everybody asked me about, what was he like off the field, and I'm like, he's exactly what he is off the field as he is on the field. In the meeting rooms, he's got great history of the game. He loves the history of the game, whether it's a coach or whether it's a wide receiver. He coached in Green Bay or San Francisco, and so forth. And he's exactly the same. He's got great passion and just loves the game. And I think you saw that on what he did on Monday Night Football.
Barry Bonds, obviously, in my opinion, taking away the steroid aspect of it all, probably one of the most dominant players there was in the game back then. And then Andy Van Slyke, great ball player, hitter-wise. But, as far as the outfield was concerned, he could run them down with anybody that you want to put out there. I don't care who you're talking about, Willie Mays, Otis Nixon, whoever you want to put out there, Marquise Grissom. He was one of the best, and also throwing out guys at the plate or throwing out guys and running to third or wherever he needed to throw the ball. I'm just thankful in 1992 the base hit wasn't hit out to him. It was hit out to Barry Bonds, because if it was hit to Andy, I would have probably been out by about 30 feet.
Barry threw that Scott Norwood out there, field goal, like wide left or wide right or whatever.
Now let's not get too, Barry's throw was not that bad, okay? Today's guys, can hardly get the ball to second base for the most part.
That's true.
Barry's was a one-hopper just up the line, and, so you got to give him a lot of credit too, but my speed took over in that instance, and I just blew past his ball.
Right, go ahead.
Real quick, Sid, what inspired your slide in 1992, the one that's behind Michael right now?
What inspired my slide? Well, trying to be fast enough so I would have been out.
Yeah.
Good grief. Again, going back to that, I've often said, I shouldn't have been on second base. Bobby Cox, even to this day, said he had nobody to play first base. Well, that wasn't the truth, because Brian Hunter, he platooned with me, and he pinched hit that inning. And Francisco Cabrera, that got the big hit, he also played first base. So our big thing, if we were to tie that ball game up, was who was going to play second base, because Mark Lemke was pinch hit for in the 7th inning, and then Rafael Belliard was pinch hit for in the 9th inning. And so that we had nobody to play second base. And so a pitcher could have easily been out there at second base for me, and probably been into the dugout by the time I got to home plate. But I was just able to make things exciting by doing that. And
it was a great experience at Purdue. I came in as a receiver at Purdue. And then I was switched on the first day, how that offense, when I have the whole team, offense stay in one area, defense go in another area. And I was a receiver, and I can still remember today, our coach, Ron Mims, came and told me, it was calling my name, Dishman, let's go. Defense over here. And me being the arrogant person I was back then, and I'm a receiver, I'm catching footballs, and I'm scoring touchdowns. I thought it was another dishman. I didn't think he was talking about me. So I figured it was another dishman somewhere around. And he told me that I was on defense. And I was like, oh, well, I don't want to play defense. I came here to play offense. And lo and behold, guy working in great ways, that the only seat available was to sit. I sit by a guy named Rod Woodson. And the only seat was left because I was the last one in the room. I sit by a guy named Rod Woodson, and he looked and he saw my frustration in my face and in my body language. He reached over and hit me and like, man, you be all right. We be good. You be all right. And from that point on, he showed me some ways of playing defensive back, and the rest was history. I guess a lot of people are smarter than I was. I wanted to play receivers and catch balls, and they said, nope, you're going to make a career playing defensive back.
Absolutely. Let's see. The one up top is we had a throwback night here in Texas. The jersey up to the right here is my high school jersey. And then I've got a Steve Carlton in front of me here, but I only have so much room here. I've got another room upstairs and in a game room upstairs. Most of my jerseys are Philly stuff, Philly jerseys. I got a chance to meet Mike Schmidt here in Arlington. Got a chance to hang out with Steve Carlton a couple nights up at Windstar in the casino here up in Oklahoma. So, I mean, I get a chance to see these guys, guys I grew up watching and being able to be around them. And there's all kinds of stuff. I got all my baseballs, and I collect. I just love collecting. So I've always been a fan first when it comes to this stuff, even playing. Same thing, still see these guys, footballs and all kinds of stuff. So I just love collecting. I'll pass this along to my son. And go along. So, I mean, there's all kinds of good stuff. The vet right there, the picture of the vet, and then the last game at the vet. First game at the Forest State Center, which is now First whatever. I don't know what it is. It changes names every year. So I'm always a big collector of this stuff. I love it. I don't do it to sell it. I do it just for the nostalgia part of it. I've always been that guy. So, I mean, I got a hockey stick back there, Pierre Turgeon signed stick. I got some bat. I got one of my baseball bats when I played in Cape Cod from the Barnstable Bat Company. It's still sitting over there. So, I mean, I've got all kinds of stuff. I just love collecting things. I'm just that guy. But my wife won't let me put it in so many rooms in the house. So I've got a whole bunch of stuff hanging up. So I played guys I played with, played against, had them sign jerseys just to have them. I've got a bat rack upstairs. You see that bat rack there? The one upstairs holds probably 100 bats, guys I played with, Hall of Famers and different stuff. So I've got a big rack of stuff that I like to just collect and, the nostalgic part of it. Like I said, I've always been a fan, regardless of what the sport is.
Yeah, no, that's cool. It's great to see your collection and that you're a keeper of items. That's pretty awesome.
And the first Hall of Fame I ever went to was the Hockey Hall of Fame. We were up there in Buffalo playing a hockey tournament, and we got a chance to go to Toronto.
Nice.
So,
Come to me, Kevin.
I always like the championships, and the Bulls have the most.
Thank you. I'm going to repay the favor.
And they had the coach Phil Jackson that my Lakers
talking,
had.
Baby.
So I'm going to go with the Bulls.
Two three-peats.
All right, Paul.
So not just because I love Kevin, maybe a little bit too unhealthy, but I'm going with Kevin's version of the Lakers because the first time I saw Shaquille O'Neal on the movie Blue Chips, I was concerned. I was like, oh, my God, this is going to be insane to guard. And I think Rick's got a good point, a great point, an obvious point when he says if they would have stuck together, who knows how many more they would have won because Shaq in his prime and Kobe with the way he could shoot, drive, he was like right out of the page of Michael Jordan. Anybody that said something negative about him, he used it as motivation. If those two could have worked it out, they could have won 8 or 9 championships. Who knows?
Rick, you get the final vote.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, you guys all make some good points about all the different teams. As I said before, they're the best of their particular time and trying to compare them and stuff is like trying to compare apples to oranges. But I would have to say, based upon the competition they had to play against, I would say the Showtime Lakers, beat some unbelievably really other good teams. And then, hard not to go. And also because the Lakers and the Spurs kind of like negated each other during that period of time. And I agree with the thing about, with Kobe and Shaq. And the thing is, they definitely would have won more championships if I could have convinced Shaq to shoot underhanded free throws.
I remember you saying that, but don't you think the Bulls would have won more if Jordan would have dabbled around with baseball?
Oh yeah, no, it's not. No, I'm telling you, I like your Bulls too. Here's the thing, I don't think they beat as good a teams as the Lakers had to beat. That to me, that's the differentiation. Is that you won the titles, but who was your competition?
But do you think they had as many stars as the Lakers had? They had Jordan and Scottie, but the rest.
No, I understand they were a great team and doing the same. The Lakers team was just unbelievably loaded with talent, and they won all those championships. And the talent that they had to beat, the other teams they had to beat. So to me, if I was forced to take a vote and had to say one, which, I don't like doing that kind of stuff. The Showtime Lakers to me are the most impressive ones because of their competition and what they accomplished. But the Bulls team, obviously, as far as really being dominating, it's pretty hard to go, against that Chicago team.
That's because Brian got a new haircut and so his team wins. Oh my God.
Yeah, and it's really crazy, man. Because I didn't become clean till I was 31, 29, and it was I fought Tyson, I fought Holyfield, I went out really bad. Now, I blew a show that I was supposed to do with Angelo, a color commentary show. And Angelo, and Betty called me and said I need to come over there right away. Angelo was mad. And I went up there and he never looked at me. And he told me, Betty, he won't have nothing to do with me no more. He said, go get his files. There was a bank down here. I had to take deposit, but get everything out, leave him alone, blah, blah. I don't have nothing else to do with him no more. He ain't say goodbye. when he kicked me out, he didn't kick me out of the office, but he just said, Betty, take his belongings with him and tell him to go. And all this was right in front of me. And I went to treatment. And I went out really bad. I did go to treatment, and I got out after I was out about probably a month and a half. Betty called me, and I left Miami and went back to Michigan, and nobody but God knew where I was. And I was 16 miles from my family in Michigan, in Southfield. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I get a call from Betty. And Betty calls my mother and my father's house and said, Pink, she said, Angela wants you to come and do this show. And I said, are you serious? I get choked up. I'm sorry. I can always get choked up when I talk about that guy, man. I don't know why. But they asked me they told me they were sending me tickets. They wanted me to come to do the show. And it was in March, and the show was going to be, the press conference was going to be in April. And he had Ali, he had Ernie Shavers, he had Jimmy Ellis, he had Willie Pelt, and he had Willie Pastrana. And they invited me to come out. And we all got together and stuff, and the next thing and that's what really got me straight, man. When he hit me on the head and made me just told me they didn't want to have nothing else to do with me. And I went to treatment and I dealt with it. And I smoked, I drank, I did everything until I got out of I made a vow to myself that once I left that treatment center, I wasn't going to smoke another cigarette and I wasn't going to use another drug, and I wasn't going to drink again.